Yo people, it's your girl Laughter. Welcome back to my mini home studio inside my bedroom. As promised, I'm going to be doing a series of tutorials to teach you how to record in Logic Pro X. This is for beginner users only, of course, but you might find some tips even if you think you're a pro at recording yourself, because I've learned so much over this lockdown and I'm really happy to teach you, and hopefully you can learn something too. Last week, we focused on the buffer size, setting up sample size and so forth. So doing your overall settings of Logic. So I'm going to assume you've already done that. If not, make sure you go and watch that video to help you set up your Logic. Otherwise, we can't get recording. I'm also going to assume you've already connected your audio interface. Mine, I use the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. I'll leave it in the caption below if you want to have a look at it. But I've literally connected it into my computer. I've got my headphones connected, I've got my mic connected to it, I've also got my set of speakers connected into it as well. So I'm assuming you're already at this stage, okay? What we're going to do now is go ahead and open up Logic. So as you know from last week, when you open up Logic Pro, this is what you get. So you want to click on an empty project. Okay, as this session is about teaching you to record vocals over an instrumental, we are going to select this option here, audio. If you were someone that's wanting to produce, you'd go into software instrument and load up all your, your instruments, your piano and so forth. But this is primarily focused on vocals. So we're going to click audio. Like I said last week, you want to ensure that your audio interface has been recognized in the input and output, because that's where all the information is going to be going back and forth from in order for the signal of your vocals to be picked up. You could put record enabled on, input monitoring on, and everything else you can leave it as it is. Click create. Okay, the first thing I do at the start of a recording session is import my instrumental that I'm using, that I'm recording over. You could do this various ways on Macs. You can drag it in from iTunes, for instance, literally by just clicking on it and going in and so forth. You can also go into your files from here remotely, click all files, and then this middle part here, like home, and you can select the file that your folders are in. You can also just go straight to Finder and literally just drag the beat in from there, okay? So I've set up a folder for this, so I'm going to go and show you as if I was doing it from this section here. I'm going to go into home, and I'm going to go to desktop, and the beat, I've put step 2 here, okay, and I'm just literally going to drag it in to this track that's already been created. I produced that instrumental and I set a particular tempo, so I've literally just imported the information. This will make sense once I show you how to set a tempo yourself, okay? It says the audio file contains markers. Literally, I'm just going to import everything. It doesn't matter for the sake of this recording, okay? The first thing I do is make sure that my Logic, well, this track here, has recognized that this is a stereo track, and it has. The way we've done that is by looking at this, and it says it's going through input 1 and 2, and there are 2 circles here. This is my instrumental. I'm going to go ahead now and set a BPM. I'm going to set the tempo of the instrumental. Otherwise, if you don't do this, you need to do this for every single recording session. If you don't select the tempo of the instrumental and you try and send your vocals elsewhere, everything's going to be out of time. So you need to make sure that you set the tempo of the instrumental. The way you do that is going into audio effects here, click on the downward arrow and select metering, BPM counter and stereo. Now, I'm literally just going to select Z to zoom in. The beat is pretty loud. I'm just going to go here anyway, okay? And I'm just going to play the instrumental, because you want to start a little bit later in, because sometimes instrumentals have like a quiet bit at the start as it's leading up. So go to the middle of the instrumental where you know it's going to be heavyweight so that this BPM can detect it quick. So I'm just going to press the space bar. Okay, that was easy. You can see the tempo it's given me is 70 BPM. You need to set it at the top here where it says tempo in the middle at the start of every session. All you do is double click here and type in the 70 and press enter. And that's your BPM set and we're good to go. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, so how do we get recording? There's only one track here right now. We need to create a new track. There's two ways you can do this. You can duplicate a track by literally just pressing this option here. What that does is duplicate the track that's just before. Now, we don't want to do that. And the reason for that is this is a stereo channel. It just means it's coming out, it's being processed differently. When you are recording your vocals, you need to be on a mono track. And I'm going to show you how you do that. So I'm literally just going to delete this track, just pressing delete. Okay. I'm going to set a new track, this plus sign here on the left. You can also select Command N for a shortcut. So I'm going to select audio and create. Automatically, that's changed the input to input 1, which is where my actual mic is connected into, on my interface, into input 1. So you need to make sure you know which input your mic is connected to. So mine is input 1, but it should automatically recognize it. Now, this is different from the instrumental, which is 1 and 2. That's a stereo channel. When we're recording vocals, we need to make sure we select the new track from here and make sure it's on input 1. Make sure it's on a mono track when you're recording vocals. That's the correct way of doing it. Let's duplicate this 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. This I button's on, right? If you want to hear your vocals, your actual voice in real time as you're recording, you'd have that on. You don't necessarily have to record with this eye on. We're going to make sure that this R button is clicked. So whatever track you're recording on, you just have to click the R button. And you could press record here, or on your actual keyboard, you could press R to start recording your vocals. I always make sure the beat is turned down at least -4 dB or -5. If you try and get your levels to come out at -6 dB at all times, you're going to have a good mix that's not distorted. At 0 dB, you can see that the levels are flashing up here, and it's red. It's gonna be clipping. You're gonna get some sort of distortion, right? That's what I like. You could go -6, so forth, but I'm happy with that level. That's perfect for me. Now, in terms of recording your vocals, now that you've actually turned the instrumental down, you would select, using this marker here, where you want the instrumental to start for you to start recording. Okay, so let's say I'm just recording from this part here. You would select R, and if you are using an audio interface that requires phantom power, you need to make sure your phantom power is on. On my Scarlett 2i2, I have to press a button that says 48 volts right at the front. So I just press 48 volts and it flashes green for it to be recognized. The same thing should happen with your audio interface. At the start of each session, go into Logic Pro, Preferences, and go into Audio. Okay? Now, it's just a good habit to do this to ensure that your audio interface has been recognized, that everything, the signal is going to be going through it. So mine is the Scarlett 2i2. It's definitely not the built-in microphone that I'm going to be using. That's not going to sound great. You notice my buffer size is 1024. If I try and record with 1024, I'm going to cause a lot of delay on my vocals. All that means is it's going to take a very long time for my vocals to be going in and out, okay, to be created digitally in between my audio interface, my Mac, and so forth. So you want your buffer size set to about 128 or 256 or even 64. My Scarlett 2i2 allows me to record with 128 and it sounds great. Okay, so at the start of every session, you need to make sure you have lowered your buffer size. When you are mixing your vocals, which is something I'm going to go over next week, or when I'm talking about basic levels of mixing, because you're going to be processing large amounts of information, your computer needs to be able to cope with it. So you would select the highest buffer size. In this case, it's going to be 1024 for when you're mixing. When you're recording the vocals, like I said last week, you need to set it at 128. So I've applied, and you just press apply changes. Once it's initialized, just press the X button and you're pretty much good to go. You leave your vocals on 0, okay? And we're just gonna now test out my mic level and headphone level. So on your interface, you should be able to see a gain for your mic, as well as a gain for, which should say monitor, for the actual instrumental that's going to be playing in your headphones to be recording over. You don't want that too loud. That's one of my first tips to artists is, do not turn up your monitors because you think it's going to gas you and you're going to give more energy. Sometimes having your monitor low and giving that same energy, like a kind of a good level of energy without shouting, just makes the recording sound cleaner, more like a, it's ready to go radio, just more like a track rather than something that's just shouting. No one's going to want to listen to that. So I would advise you set that. I always set it till about, I'd say just over a quarter of the way from literally. I don't go halfway, that's too loud. So just under halfway, that's for the actual instrumental, the monitor. And for my mic, I have it about halfway usually. Now, when I'm recording, I want to make sure that it's about -6 dB of my vocal is being picked up. I've actually got my 48 volts on my phantom power. I'm just going to test my mic level, and as you can see, to recognize that your mic is active, literally you can see this green signal being picked up. Let's press R and let's see the levels. I heard what I said, but then my fans chill, I ain't breaking a sweat. I can spray it backstage, I can spray it on stage, I can spray it on a set. Okay, to delete a take, you literally just press delete on your keyboard and press enter. Now, when you record a vocal, if you do press delete, you can't bring it back. So although I've literally just pressed Command Z to undo, okay, that's a shortcut for undoing. You can literally go here, you could just do undo and so forth, right? You will never bring back the vocal. It's just going to be empty, okay? So let's delete that. And I'm going to turn up my mic level here till we get it till about -6 dB when I'm rapping over the instrumental. I can spray it backstage, I can spray it on set, I can spray it on a set. Yeah, I got a big batty and a C-cup breast, but I don't mean you could come keep up rest. Just know that I'm not just meat on legs, I'm on feet on crets, I got beats on deck. I just made this beat like Dex. I got the right level going. Having a look at this, I've just literally zoomed in. You can use your own, if you're using a Mac, just in the middle where your keys would usually go, just spread your fingers and you'd be able to kind of zoom in. Or here, you can play around with what you want to see, how thick you want to have the tracks. Here you can zoom in to certain parts and zoom back out. Okay, this right here looks like healthy levels for me. I can spray it backstage, I can spray it on stage, I can spray it on a set. Yeah, I got a big batty and a C-cup breast, but I don't mean you can come keep up rest. Just know that I'm not just meat on legs, I'm on feet on crets, I got beats on deck. Okay, my vocal sounds clean. There's no distortion, there's no shouting, you get your level correct by literally double clicking where it says audio, just type in lead vocal. That just shows it's your main. You could type it main, whatever you want to call it. What I would usually do after that is go ahead and record my stabs. Stabs are just like punchy things at the end of a bar. Certain words you want to emphasize and do effects on later on. And you would, standard is to do it twice. So I would record 2 stabs and I would pan them. I'll show you what I do in a moment. And then do a set of adlibs. So let's record stabs to show you how you do it. You could do it either in the same tone you've done it, or you can give a bit more energy for like dynamics to your vocals. So I'm going to go ahead and click 48 volts again for my phantom power, because remember, every time I record, that needs to be on. I always turn, obviously, my speakers down, which is why you're not going to hear the instrumental when I'm recording. You don't want that to be picked up on the mic. Also, another reason you don't want your monitor here, like the instrumental in your ear, really loud. You don't want the instrumental bleeding into the track, because with your vocals, you're just going to have the instrumental. It's just going to not, it's not going to sound clean. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I record stabs. Set, breast, keep up, rest, meat on legs, beats on deck. Okay, so you can see I literally just said the end word of the end bar. Record another set of stabs. Beats on deck. Decks. Another thing, a good tip is whatever stab you record the first time, mirror it. Cause it doesn't sound messy that way. Okay, you can hear the stabs. Tip: never have the stab levels matching your lead vocal unless you're someone that likes really loud stabs. I always turn these down to about minus, sometime in between -5 and -7. I don't go above this because that's my personal preference. I just think it sounds cleaner. So I try and keep them the same. And then what I do is record my adlibs. Adlibs, you could call them in between or whatever. It's just things you could say in between to like gas up your verse, right? So it could be random words like sick, yeah, done no. Yeah, okay, okay. Woo. Done no, done no. All right, so I've recorded my adlibs to show you what I would do with the adlibs. Notice how here my adlib, this one was so loud. So even with stabs, a tip for all of these three: if you are going to be giving it more energy, either turn the mic down or step back from the mic. Now, next week I'm going to be getting into your mixing, right? But I just want to say one thing because it's going to bug me if I don't do this. If you click this actual audio, and you press Control X, it gets rid of the air in between your vocals. It works on stabs. I would never do it for adlibs because sometimes I'm saying more than one word and it may cut off too much of my, it may actually cut off certain words. So I would just press Command and highlight it. I would keep holding Command, highlight the empty parts. The empty parts are shown by just a line, right? And when you're mixing, if they exist, damn, it's not going to sound good. So you want to go ahead and just get rid of all these empty parts. Yeah, but for my stabs, I always make sure I use Control X and then I go back and listen to it. I'm not going to go into your mixing now, but I would solo each one and listen to it to make sure certain words have not been cut off. All right. So let's see. Set. See? Nice. No air there. Breast. Cool. Keep up, rest. Nice. Meat on legs. All right. So that sounds about right, but I would listen to the whole thing for all of it and I'd continue cleaning up the track. Okay. Solo in a track, as you can see, just plays one track at a time so that you can focus on it during mixes or even just listening back to particular recordings. I think I've given you a lot of information this session. I think we're getting close to ending actually. Let's play back and just hear what I did. I can spray it backstage, I can spray it on stage, I can spray it on the set. Yeah, I've got, oh right, yeah. Also adlibs, they go even lower than your stabs, right? I have adlibs sometimes at 13, sometimes at 10, whatever, 11. 11 is also healthy because you can boost it up and you want your adlibs to more sit in the background. You don't want your adlibs to be at the forefront. Again, it will sound too messy. Same with your stabs. And I always leave the adlibs in the middle so it comes out of both speakers as opposed to one speaker on right or left, right? I leave the stabs to do that business and my adlibs will come out here central and will be the lowest in terms of volume of all of my tracks. The stabs will be second to lowest and the lead is going to most of the time stay at 0. I'll go into more during mixing. I want to give you so much more. Let's play it. I can spray backstage, I can spray it on stage, I can spray it on the set. Yeah, I got a big batty and a C-cup breast, but I don't mean you can come keep up rest. Just know that I'm not just meat on legs, I'm on feet on cracks, I got beats on deck. I just made this beat like that. I'm explicit, I don't mean sex. Back in the day, I was always on tracks, moving homes, I was stressed. Yeah. So yeah, that's it, people. That's I hope you've learned. I tried to give you more tips than, you know, I hope that you've learned. I tried to give you more tips than I would usually see in YouTube videos. I've watched so many videos to even get to this point, to be honest. So I'm still learning and still growing, and I hope you've learned something, and I'll keep teaching as much as possible. Next week, I'm going to be going into kind of basic level mixing for beginners to start, so that you're like, okay, I've recorded my vocal, but I want to listen back and vibe to it, see what I need to change, but I want to make sure it sounds like as if it's even ready to go to radio, right? Okay, maybe we pushed it a bit far, but yeah, we're going to get a nice demo for you so you can listen back and enjoy, show your friends, show your teachers, show whoever you want to show, really. I don't know if you get your phone confiscated if you play it to your teachers. Oh, dead. So yeah, that's it really. I'm going to go into mixing and so forth. Stay tuned. It's your girl Laughter. Thank you for watching. I hope you've learned a lot.